What's up, it's Cinema Shogun here, and it appears that Bryan Kohberger's family has just issued a statement. If you don't know who Bryan Kohberger is, I guess you've been living under a rock for the last couple of days because everyone is talking about him, but he is the suspect who has been arrested in connection to the Idaho 4 case. So I'm about to read this statement in just a moment, but first I just want to give you some of my thoughts. This statement couldn't have come at a better time. I think this is a good move. Often in these cases, we see the families of people who allegedly, sometimes commit these crimes and they stay silent. Think about the Laundries and how long it took for them to issue a statement through their lawyer. And by that time, everyone absolutely hated the Laundries. I understand that you have the right to remain silent, and I understand that his family doesn't have anything to do with what Bryan did, but people are going to have their own opinions. And when the news broke yesterday that Bryan's father actually flew from Pennsylvania all the way to Washington just to drive back to Pennsylvania with his son, a lot of people started asking questions, and I understand why, because that is weird. We talked about that on my other channel. Now, that doesn't mean that they know anything. And from this statement, they say that they don't know anything. So I think it's important that people don't go accusing people of random stuff and attacking them. But yes, I think it's safe to say that, most people found that little detail weird, including myself. And we already talked about that on my other channel. But let's go ahead and dig into this statement. First and foremost, we care deeply for the 4 families who have lost their precious children. There are no words that can adequately express the sadness we feel, and we pray each day for them. We will continue to let the legal process unfold, and as a family, we will love and support our son and brother. We have fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies in an attempt to seek the truth and promote his presumption of innocence rather than judge unknown facts and make assumptions. We respect privacy in this matter as our family and the family suffering loss can move forward through the legal process. Now, I'm sure various YouTube channels are going to pick this statement apart. Regardless of what these people say, people are going to find something to say about it. Yes, they do mention that they still love their son and their brother, and they're going to presume his innocence just like the law until the facts come out. I'm not going to pick them apart for saying that, because at the end of the day, he's their family. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I think it's a good idea that they issued this statement. If they were to if we just got radio silence from them, then people were going to start acting crazy. And I'm sure people are going to act crazy regardless. But, in these situations, a lot of time it just comes as a shock to everyone. We've heard a lot about Bryan's past. We've dug into Bryan's past a little bit. We've heard from all types of people who knew Bryan. I don't know much about Bryan's upbringing in his home. Considering the fact that Bryan still has a 2-parent household, I think that says a lot. In this country, a lot of people come from broken homes, and I'm not trying to assume what type of upbringing Bryan had, but Bryan still had his 2 parents. Bryan was going to college. Bryan's sister went to college. She's successful. So it's not like a lot of the stories that we see. But I think everyone tries to form fit people who commit these type of crimes, and they try to put them in a certain box together. But in reality, if you go through, enough cases, you will see a lot of diversity. There are certain stereotypes that I think follow up with people who commit crimes like this. But I'm telling you, it could be anyone. It could be your next door neighbor. It could be one of your own family members. Hell, it could be one of you all watching this video right now. But I mean, like I said, I'm glad they released this statement. I know people are still going to have their questions. I hope that they really are cooperating with law enforcement. And like I said, I just wonder what went down on that car ride with Bryan and his father. They drove all the way across country in a vehicle that was all over the news and all over the newspapers. I just wonder if any conversations came up. And, you know, I said it was weird over on my other channel. I want to talk about this for a second. This is just my thoughts, okay? I gave you all the statement. This is just my thoughts and opinions. Of course, it looks weird when someone books a flight from one side of the country. They fly all the way to the other side of the country just to drive right back to where they came from. Now, people can do whatever they want, and I'm not saying this means anything. But couldn't they have just booked Bryan a flight to fly home for the holidays? My thing is, I don't think this trip home was for the holidays. Yeah, I'm sure Bryan waited for a certain time where it could look like a trip for the holidays. And to take it one step further, Bryan's parents probably felt that way. But why did Bryan's dad fly from Pennsylvania just to drive across country with Bryan? I wonder if Bryan convinced his father to do that for some reason. Did Bryan let him know that he felt uncomfortable driving across country by himself? When in reality, maybe Bryan was just nervous that he would get caught along the way, because after all, he is driving in a vehicle that everyone's looking at. So I wonder what happened there and why that trip took place the way that it did. And I think in Bryan's mind, I think Bryan wanted to get himself and that vehicle out of town. Because like I said, I mean, I've gone over all the possibilities in my mind, and you all can do the same. If Bryan's father is going to fly all the way from Pennsylvania to Washington just to drive back to Pennsylvania, and if Bryan was supposedly supposed to return all the way back to Washington after the holidays, you could have just took a flight. You could have just taken a flight and caught it back. But I don't think Bryan wanted to take a flight, for one. And I do think that Bryan wanted to get himself in that car to the other side of the country. Now, would Bryan have come back? That's a question that's weighing heavily on my mind. I think Bryan maybe would have just waited to see how things played out. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I think there's a possibility that Bryan would have been confident enough to drive back across country and go back to school and live his life miles away from where this went down. But I also think that if certain things happened, Bryan would have never have returned back to where he came from. But we could talk about the possibilities all day. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, ring the notification bell, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.